Hi, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Keenan's Corner, Episode 2. And I tell you, this thing came about very organically. I highlighted a good friend's daughter who enlisted in the Air Force National Guard to get flight training. And then the first formal guest, Lieutenant Colonel Matt Coyne from Stony Point, one of my former students. I was thinking, scouring my mind, who would be a great story? And I found a man named Andrew Kelly. He's a Clarkstown cop. A boy's got an incredible story before and after and during. So today on Keenan's Corner Episode 2, we feature Andrew Kelly. Stay tuned for a great one. All right, Andrew, good afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
So glad you're doing this, man.
Yeah.
I was thinking about who could be a good guest, and immediately I thought of you.
Oh boy.
The very first time we met, do you remember?
Yes, Nyack 10 miler.
Absolutely. I was at the starting line and looking around, and I saw you. I saw the haircut. It's something, when you see another guy who you're pretty sure served, I just asked the question. And when you said recon, I knew I wanted to talk to you. And we ran the 10 miles together.
Yes.
You, me, and Colleen.
That's right.
And I got the full story.
It was a great day.
So here you are today on Keenan's Corner.
Yes.
And you know what? I want to take it all the way back. What was life like in the Kelly house? Stony Point,
Growing
circa
up.
1975,
Whew.
76.
It was very busy. There was, we had 5 other siblings living in a split level. My father was a fireman, FDNY, and my mother was becoming a nurse and then did decades at Nyack Hospital.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I was the youngest of 6. We had 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, and then my father turned, with his fireman friends, of course, they turned the basement into another bedroom.
And the guys on the FDNY, they all had another gig going.
Everybody.
What was your father's gig?
Inviting people over to help him.
Oh, that's great.
But he also did a lot of landscaping. Actually did work around here in New City, West Nyack. Cutting lawns, washing windows, whatever you can get your hands on.
Because the FDNY guys, they work 24 and then
they're home.
Unbelievable.
I know.
And now, boy-girl breakdown in your house.
My oldest is female, Tracy, and then next would be Kevin, Patrick, Jennifer, Sheila, and myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sunday Mass every Sunday?
Of course. We'd walk to St. Gregory's.
At St. Gregory's?
Yep.
You walked?
It was a very short walk, so it wasn't a big deal. Even in the rain, you made do.
And did you guys go to Catholic school?
We did not go to Catholic school. We all went to public school.
Okay.
I went to North Garneville, and by second grade, I was walking to North Garneville.
Really?
Yeah. But this day and age, it would be,
hardcore.
it would be unthinkable to send your second grader out the door to
out in the cold.
Walk 1.5 miles to school.
And Stony Point was a rough and tumble town.
Well,
back in the 70s.
It was. I didn't get too involved with that, which was great. We lived right on the border of Garneville, so we're very close to St. Gregory's.
Yeah.
So the walk was short, and then just past that would be North Garneville. So it was. We never really ran into any problems. We kind of cut through the woods.
Yeah.
Nobody ever chases around. The only issue we ever had is if we went on the roof of St. Gregory's.
Did you guys spend a lot of time in the woods?
All the time in the woods.
Yes. Shooting BB guns?
Shooting BB guns, shooting each other with BB guns, shooting bows and arrows, which how none of us got severely injured. Bow and arrows.
Oh,
it was not.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Stony Point was the Wild West.
Oh, it was. It was tons of fun.
For us, building forts, shooting BB guns, going to other neighborhoods and playing war.
Yes.
With plastic machine guns.
Of course.
And using pine cones as grenades.
That's right. Same thing.
It was, and we could be out of our parents' eyesight, like gone for 3 miles.
The entire day.
3 miles away on our bikes.
Yes. Disappear, crawling through sewers.
And that's gone. Where the hell did that go?
I don't know. It's unfortunate, but it seems. But then again, it's our life experiences, our perspective. The kids, if you ask them, maybe they have their own adventures tucked away in their
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
But
Here's a question for you: did your father serve in the military?
he did not know. He tried to get in the Navy. He says he got rejected because he had flat feet.
Ah, oh no, it's possible.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said he was heartbroken when he
Yeah.
couldn't get in.
Wow. All right. So let's inject the role of sports in the early life of Andrew Kelly. What were you playing as a kid?
Played a lot of football, a lot of tackle football with everybody in the neighborhood. Played a lot of street hockey. Went into Pee Wee football.
Yeah.
Going to have a straw for that. Did 8 years of Pee Wee football.
Yeah.
Did ice skating. Played ice hockey.
Yeah.
Nothing organized, mostly disorganized kids
Yeah.
skating around on the ice until you fall through, and then you went home freezing cold.
Yeah.
But always out doing something, constantly running around, building forts in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
playing guns,
Yeah.
Shooting each other with whatever we could fire at one another.
Yeah.
It really was a fantastic upbringing.
Really beautiful.
Yeah,
way to
it really was.
Very innocent.
Yeah,
kinda.
get out of the house.
And always out of the house.
Always.
Oh my God.
And if you were in the house for too long, you get told to get out of the house.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's go into high school. You went to North Rockland High School.
Yes.
You were heavily involved in sports by that point.
I played lacrosse. I pretty much focused all my energy into lacrosse.
Really?
Once my brother started, he started playing lacrosse. I might have been in 3rd grade. He came home and handed me a lacrosse stick because he had no one to have a catch with.
Yeah.
So he was in high school at the time, or middle school, or going into high school, and he started playing lacrosse. So he had very few people to have a catch with. So he got me a stick.
It wasn't that big of a sport back then.
No.
Much bigger now.
Brand new.
Huge now.
Yeah. So I started playing in like 3rd grade, just catching the ball. And
Yeah.
so my skills by the time I got to high school were very good.
Yeah.
And then went through high school and played lacrosse for all 4 years.
And that's a rough sport.
You
You get banged up.
Oh, you can, yeah. Just you got to have your head on a swivel like everything else, I suppose, in life.
And you get thumped in the chest with that ball.
Oh, awful.
And that hurts.
That does.
That's pain.
Yeah.
That's so I just finished reading a book by a special forces operator named Jason Van Camp. It's called Deliberate Discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, when I say deliberate discomfort, what does that mean to you?
It's funny. As soon as you said it, it meant a lot to me. Only it seems to me that I seek it often. I don't like to be comfortable. I don't think.
No.
I prefer discomfort.
You know, the subtitle to that book, it's Deliberate Discomfort, being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Right.
Which is like, oh my God. I reflected back on my own experience at Ford and ROTC and then jumping into the Army active duty. And that's what it is. You gravitate towards that life.
Yes. I without a doubt, looking back on everything, especially my most recent endeavor, I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because then you really find the most out about yourself.
Yes.
And then you get to process a lot of things that you've gone through and conversations you've had with people and experiences you've had with others. And that's, I think, how you develop who you are as a person.
And let me ask you this. High school lacrosse teammates, who are you still close with?
My best friend is Sam Bonacore.
Wait, Sam Bonacore?
Yes.
Do you have a brother named Ernie?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I don't want to interject too much, but I lifeguarded at Lake Welsh with Ernie.
Yes. I was a lifeguard at Lake Sebago.
And Sam. They were great guys.
Yes.
Oh, I love those guys.
I might have bumped into you a couple times playing softball.
A couple of no time parties.
Oh, yeah.
On Sunday nights. Oh, man.
Yeah.
We raised a little bit of hell.
Yes. That was great times.
Yeah.
Great times.
Serious good times. Matter of fact, I guarded after I graduated from Fordham after commissioning. And I got off the beach one day and I had to report to OBC. Went straight to Virginia.
That was that.
Yeah, that was that. All right, now, so you're in high school, you're a lacrosse stud. Are you getting recruited? Is that possible at that point?
No, I don't think anybody was recruited at that time from our team. Uh, we were more of a just smash into you kind of
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
We
yeah.
very little finesse, all about aggression.
Yeah.
So we really didn't get anywhere. One of our better players at the time was PJ McCarthy. Um, I don't know if I don't. I know he went to Fairfield, but I don't know if he played lacrosse when he got there.
Did you want to play at the next level?
I went away to SUNY Morrisville for a
Mhm.
semester. I think the only reason I got in is because I could play lacrosse. And I mean, it's not a tough school to get into to begin with.
Right,
And
right,
my
right.
grades certainly weren't up to snuff for probably any college at the time. And I did a semester there, and I played lacrosse, and it was great. But then first Gulf War broke out. That was in '90.
Yeah.
So that was
19, we went through 91.
August '90
I
is
think it
when
was,
we started
okay.
sending guys over there.
The-
90,
the
just
build-up
January
started, yeah,
'91.
yeah.
That's when we went in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of changing my trajectory from that
And
point
so
forward.
you were in college when the balloon went up for Desert Shield, the ramp up.
Yes. And you're watching it every night on TV, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, look at this! This is incredible."
Tell me what you were thinking. What were you feeling?
At
that
I
moment.
felt at a place where I was. I felt as though I had to go do something. I felt like I wanted to be part of this endeavor that everybody else was pushing towards. So that
So you-
kind of led me into the next phase.
And what was that next phase?
So I had a buddy of mine, Brian Durkin, he joined the Marines. So he was in boot camp prior to the invasion, and once the invasion started, and I got out of, and I already concluded my first semester, I then went to the recruiter, and there was like a massive backlog of guys trying to get in. So I didn't get in until December '91.
Wow.
And that war was only 100 hours long.
I know.
Maybe a 6-month buildup for a 100-hour engagement. And then that was it. But then I had already committed, and I'm like, I'm going. And I was so excited to do it. It was just something so unusual. The only person that had been in the Marines in my family was my Uncle Brendan Malley. And so
was he, as you look back on your life and the decision to answer that calling, was he the guy that you looked to?
I don't think so. I think it was more movies.
Really?
Like entertainment, like just like reading books and history. I was a huge history buff, and I loved history. I actually went back to college to get my degree in history after the military, and I was a police officer. I was just fascinated with it. Just fascinated with.
Now, you know, you're talking to a retired history teacher.
Yes.
All right. Let me just jump on that point. Of all the history you've studied, who is the most influential character? Who is the most influential person to you in history? Or who do you look to for inspiration, or, you know, kind of to recalibrate your azimuth?
In a historical terms, I was always fascinated with not so much the leaders, or I was never really fascinated with the leaders. I was more fascinated with the individuals that were almost nameless.
Yes.
I found a greater connection to them. Just like when you're reading The Civil War by Shelby Foote, it's thousands of pages.
Yeah.
And and you read about all the great, leaders, especially during the Civil War. On both sides, their tactical mindset was unreal.
Yeah.
And the ability to move troops at that time frame was just unbelievable. But I was always fascinated by the individual
boots on the ground
guy and what they were capable of doing. And there was like a side notes on individuals and their experiences during the war based on diaries and things like that. Like I read, just what just popped into my head was the diary of a Napoleonic foot soldier. And it's a diary written by, he was
a soldier in the Grand Army.
Yes. And he was forced into into this role.
Conscripted, yeah.
And he wrote a diary during the invasion of Russia, and then him trying to escape,
Which was disastrous.
just total disaster.
Napoleon took 600,000
Oh,
and came back with 100,000.
unbelievable.
Right.
But this individual's story during that time frame was that was like really opened my eyes and energy. I was fascinated by the
Yeah.
suffering and the
Yeah.
and beyond that, I was always fascinated by like POW books about the individual going through this psychological, physical, mental torture, and then to put the pieces back together and formulate an escape, and whether or not it's successful or not, and going
Yeah.
through that. Like that's really what fascinated me the
I have
most.
to tell you, when I suffered my injury, one of the books that I read in my able-bodied life was the story of John McCain, Faith of Our Fathers.
Yeah.
And he had spent 5 years in the Hanoi Hilton.
Yes.
And one of basically the commander of the troops in the Hanoi Hilton was Admiral Jim Stockdale.
Yeah.
And he was a diehard resistor.
Unbelievable.
I think he got the Medal of Honor.
Yes, he did.
And like he studied and he credits the Greek philosophy movement of Stoicism. And he called it steady strain. Don't get too high or too low. And when I suffered my injury, I referred back to steady strain and Admiral Jim Stockdale in the Hanoi Hilton. And that was one of the touchstones for my recovery.
Yeah.
And it's something I don't talk about, Andrew.
Yeah.
And you being here has kind of jarred that out of me. So thank you for that.
Oh.
Yeah, man. All right. So let's go back. The Gulf War is over in a heartbeat.
Over.
You don't get to
Before
go.
it even started.
I volunteered to go. And my battalion commander, I was a assistant S3. And then my boss got deployed. He was a helicopter pilot. And I became the acting S3. And I volunteered to go. And my commander said, no, you got to stay. And then that led me to Honduras a couple months later. So you don't get to go play in the sand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're already in.
Yep.
And you're infantry.
Yes. So I went to boot camp in December 91. I was supposed to go February 92, but they called me. My recruiter said, hey, we got a slot with your MOS.
Yeah.
Because I was going in the infantry. And you can go December 15th. I was like, oof, all right. I'm in. Let's go.
Basic training for Christmas.
Yeah, it was great. Training day one was Christmas morning.
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah, and I happened to leave on my mother's birthday. So she wasn't happy about that. But
holy cow.
so we had a little bit of an early Christmas that year, and then that was it. Out the door I went.
How'd you find basic training?
It's number one, it's a culture shock. You know, it's just and they deplete a lot of your walls before you get there. You have a lot of movement. You're on a plane, then you're on a bus, and they drain you before you get there.
Yeah.
Maybe to this point it'd be fun and games for me at this point.
Right.
But at least mentally, I don't know about physically right now. I might get fed up with it. But so I think that was their psychology to kind of drain you a little bit and then put you on the bus, get you there really early in the morning. You show up at 3:30 in the morning, and next thing you know, bang, your world explodes, and you're like, "Who is this guy screaming?"
And you're living in an open squad bay.
Yes. So the receiving portion, just a lot of yelling, screaming. You get all your stuff, and then you get all your shots, and it's days go by. You get put in a holding platoon, and your holding platoon then transitions into where you're going, what company you're going, what battalion. So I was in 1st Battalion training regiment, whatever they call it now.
And how long is basic?
13 weeks.
13 weeks. And tell me about the Crucible.
So the Crucible was not in effect when I went there. The Crucible came into effect maybe 10 years after 2000 something, 2005, maybe. So what we had done is that our 3rd phase, which is when they run the Crucible now. So we had 3rd phase of training would be, you've done the rifle range, and then you go and you put all of your skills and tactics to play. That would be, and you're living in the woods, you're living in a lean-to, and you're going through all these obstacle courses and everything else, and you're humping, you're dragging all your garbage everywhere and resetting it up and breaking it down, you know. So that would be the effect of what the crucible would be like. But you didn't get the Eagle Globe and Anchor until graduation day.
Okay. So you finish basic training. What's the first permanent duty station?
So back then, you would go from basic training, go home for 10 days for a break, and then you report to Camp Geiger or Camp Johnson. I think it was Camp Geiger in North Carolina, which is connected or associated with Camp Lejeune. And that would be, it was called Devil Dog, Camp Devil Dog, where everybody that gets out of boot camp, regardless of your MOS, goes to Camp Devil Dog for 30 days, and you learn basic infantry maneuvers and strategies and tactics.
Squad level tactics.
Yes. So
suppress fire and balance.
All that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Move in or out. Make a decision. And hopefully you all do it together at the same time. So from that point, after those 30 days, everybody would then go to their school, their MOS, their specialty. So then I went to Camp Geiger, Camp Johnson, part of Camp Lejeune, and then started my School of Infantry training. And within the first 2 weeks of that, that's when we got a visit from the recon guys. So they'd come. It was pre-planned. They do it for every infantry class. Yeah. So that anybody who wants to try out, they would show up, wearing all their flashy stuff, and you're like, wow, these guys look like they got their act together.
High speed. Yes.
So they'd show up and they'd say, this is what we're about. This is what we expect. If you want to try out, be here tomorrow, 05 on the quarterdeck or outside on the parade deck with this, and this, and we'll see what you got. So 30 guys started that, and 3 of us got through it. And that was just one day.
And tell me about the tryout.
So the tryout was, you had to do the obstacle course twice. You had to do our PT test. I think it was one in the beginning and one at the end.
And what was PT?
So PT test would be the PFT. So you had, they wanted to make sure you could do a first class PFT. Okay. So that would be like 20 pull-ups, 3-mile run in 18 minutes. And it was full sit-ups back then, like 80 sit-ups in a minute or 2 minutes. I forget.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that difficult to do, but to do it twice, which made it, and they know, like, then, but you expect more from yourself, at least to everybody that's trying out and wants to get through it. They expect more out of themselves.
And they're weeding out the guys.
Yes. And a lot of people do well because you're dealing with infantry Marines. So everybody's in really pretty good shape to start with. So that's not really that's not what defines who are the people that are going to get through it, that phase of it. The land PT test and the obstacle course, it's when you get into the pool. And then that's when the wheels fell off for most people. And the first one,
talk us through
the
that.
first part of that was, they put, it was I forget how high it was, 10 feet or 15 feet or whatever, the high platform for a dive. So you go up the ladder. All right, this is the next drill. We want you to go hit the water and then get across the pool. That's all they gave you.
Are you in full gear or
just up camo and I think our boots were off, so just full fatigues.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, it's a joke. You want me to get across the pool? And then they tie your hands together, tie your feet together, and then put a bag on your head. And you're like, uh-oh, everything just changed.
Yeah.
Whoop, off you go. But you if you don't freak out, or thank God, I was one of the first guys. So I think that benefited me, because then getting out and watching everybody else just totally panic, that would have probably instilled a little like, oh boy, what the heck is happening here? Why is that guy drowning? He's a stud.
Yeah.
So,
and you had that aquatics background.
Yes. Yeah. I was a lifeguard. I never was on a swim team. I sank like a rock my entire life. I still do. It's bizarre.
But you could handle yourself in the pool.
Right. So, and I was always comfortable in the water, so it wasn't a big deal. Just adding those little challenges kind of created a little havoc in the mind. Yeah. But you got through it, and a lot of people couldn't get through that. And so they weeded down. They got rid of 10 guys doing that. And then they put you in a pool. Man, you're constantly doing flutter kicks. It's a full day event. And they put everybody in a pool. And there's pool furniture in there with you. And they slowly make the ring smaller around you. And so you're getting closer to people when you're holding a brick on top of your head.
Yeah.
It was just madness. And you had to pass it around. And so that eliminated a lot of guys. People freaking out and just total panic sets in. And then crossovers, you had to swim under the water, stay under the water, come back up, get out of the pool. You get at the end of a line, everybody would finish, and then you had to do crossovers back. I think it was like 3 or 4 times. People would pass out in the water, shallow water blackouts. And people see that and they're like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm out.
No miles.
Yeah.
No miles.
But nobody, and these shallow water blackouts is very typical.
Yeah.
Because you're pushing your mind to do something that maybe your body's not capable of doing. And then all of a sudden your brain runs out of oxygen and you may have come out of the water, but then you kind of just black out and you fall into the water. And that's happened.
But you were one of 3
Well, yes.
that passed through all of it.
Yep.
How did you feel when you make the grade?
I was terrified. I'm like, this is the beginning. What's next? And it was funny during one part of this, I guess they kind of looked through your medical records, make sure there's nothing outstanding. And I had Coke bottle glasses. I had since got LASIK out of the Marine Corps. So I couldn't wear my contacts in the water. I didn't wear my glasses. I didn't want to let anybody know that I couldn't see very well. And I was blind just about. And I had my hearing in one of my ears was shot to start the whole program, start this whole program. So I remember I got a brick on my head and I'm swimming. And my buddy that I was with, he knew that what my ailments were. He's just like, you can't see a freaking thing. You can't see anything in front of you. So I hear the door swings open. There's only like 10 guys left, maybe less. And I hear, who's this Kelly kid? Deep, thunderous voice in the pool. And everything echoes inside. And I'm like, oh my God, what's this? He's like, he's a Sergeant Major Kelly. He's a Sergeant Major. I'm like, all right. So he comes running. He comes over. He's like, where's this Kelly? I'm like, here's Sergeant Major. He goes, no. He comes out of the door. He's like, where's this Kelly kid? He's blind as a bat.
I love it.
So he comes walking over. That's what my buddy told me. He's a Sergeant Major. And he's like, Kelly, are you blind as a bat? I'm like, no, Sergeant Major. He goes, how'd you know I'm a Sergeant Major? The insignia on your collar. His vision's fine.
There you go.
So my buddy let me off the hook.
Yeah.
Told me what his rank was. So that kind of.
That's the only reason you got through.
Yeah, I believe I probably would have got the boot for just.
They were looking to boot another guy.
Yeah. So they wanted to keep it at a certain level.
You would have been easy.
Yeah, easy. Yeah.
Medical disqualification.
That's it. Done. You're
Next man up.
Yep.
But you got through.
Yeah.
You skated through.
Mm-hmm.
Because your buddy hipped you to the guy who's a Sergeant Major.
Yeah.
Holy.
That's right. That was great.
So you get through the tryout, and now you're going to go through the training.
So then we had to go back to School of Infantry and finish that. That was 8 weeks long. I go back, and everybody you were there with, they had all quit. So they're kind of in the dumps.
They're bummed
and
out.
you finished, you got through it. So, you never wanted to, poke the beast.
Right.
So you just kind of stay humble and they were understanding, like, they gave it a shot and awesome. So we finished out the last 6 weeks, and then we went to holding. Those guys went to the fleet, and I stayed with a couple other guys that came together because we were all going to recon together.
Right.
So we were in holding with just a few guys, and then recon shows up in a van, and they're like, put this on. And it was a rope. You put a rope on you, so everybody knows who you are. You're a rope.
Yeah.
You're no longer human. You're a rope. So right off the bat, as soon as
and you're not recon.
Right.
You're a rope.
You're a rope. You're not even a Marine anymore. You're nothing. So you get in the van. Next thing you know, you're getting thrashed all the way back and thrashed like pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, flutter kicks, mountain climbers, bodybuilders, just calisthenics, just to turn you into a sweaty mess. So we get back. We get to second recon. And you're like, oh boy, okay. It was on a beach. It was on Onslow Beach.
Uh-huh.
You had to cross a bridge that turned so nobody else could get on it. And it was all like a mind game. Like, you're like, oh man, this is a penny bridge. This thing turns. No one's getting on the beach. So, and then you get assigned to Delta Company, which was at the end of the beach. And I guess that probably changed incrementally. So this time we all, like 5 of us or so went to Delta Company, and they just ask you stupid questions. Like, how do you spell reconnaissance? I had already known some of the answers to
Oh
these
my God.
questions.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I never faltered on how to spell reconnaissance. And but like guys didn't know how to spell reconnaissance,
Yeah.
which is it's not an easy word
Yeah.
when you're 18,
And
19, 20 years
if
old.
you bolo that, are you out?
No, you just get thrashed even more.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
like
yeah.
a constant. They just ask you the stupidest questions, and then you're gonna get something wrong, and then you're getting thrashed.
Yeah.
So that lasted for about 2 to 3 weeks of just like you had to fill the intercoastal up with water from the ocean,
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So using your mouth,
Stupid
only
stuff.
only using your mouth. Yeah, and your clothes. So you'd go run in, you fill your mouth up with water, and you run or low crawl back to the intercoastal,
And were you wringing out your clothes?
wringing out your clothes to fill the intercoastal,
Jesus.
and vice versa.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
just nonsense. Flashbangs in the morning.
Yeah.
Just looking back on it, I really don't know what to think of it, other than it was kind of funny when you look back on it.
Were you having a good time in the moment?
I didn't know. I was just kind of like, I felt like I was just going through the motions. Like, this is it. I'm not. To back up, I knew I wasn't going to quit. No matter what they threw at me, I knew I wasn't going to quit, because my father had told me years prior, I left Pee Wee football because I kept smashing my head and like getting like little concussions or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think I'm done. You know, I'm not. I'm done getting smashed in the head. And my father's like, once you quit, quitting gets easier. After that, I'm like, ugh. So from that point on, I'm like, I'm never going to quit anything. You know, that's it.
So it was.
So that's what was rattling around in my head.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to prove them wrong.
No matter what happens, I'm
no
going
matter
all the
what.
way.
So I got through that, and we went to ARS. ARS was Amphibious Reconnaissance School. And that was more of like you learned everything about how to be a recon Marine.
And you know what? Let's do a break there. And the next phase will be like a deep dive into recon, the mission, your training, where you were, and then deployments. Right. I just want to take 5 and rotate back. Hey everybody, I hope you're enjoying this podcast as much as I am, and that it's giving you some good fodder for thought and helping you on your journey. Speaking of journeys, I'd like to call your attention to the book I wrote. It's a memoir, talks about my life in good times and bad times, seeking deliberate discomfort and getting ready for when everything goes wrong. The book's called The Road to Resilience, the Billy Keenan story, and if you'd like to learn more, go on barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you enjoy the read. All right, we're back, and we're talking about recon. Now, my impression of recon comes right out of movies like Heartbreak Ridge. What's a recon Marine?
Well, there is a recon creed. I've totally forgotten all of it. In essence,
Give me bits and pieces.
It's someone that can take anything, can sustain days, weeks, if necessary, months in complete discomfort. Its main priority is to complete the mission, and secondary would be get back safely. The capabilities are endless of a recon Marine. Their drive, their intelligence, their focus, their camaraderie with one another is, from my experience, second to none.
What would a recon? What would be the equivalent in the Army? Would it be
Well,
Rangers, SF?
Very different skill sets. So a recon team would probably never try to take over an airfield. They don't have the manpower. They're small, limited, could be direct action. You could clear a house if need be, but your main function would be to report on enemy troop movement, call for fire, um, report on roads, bridges, the capabilities of uh, a military force based on their numbers, their material.
So a recon team then would have the ability to call in artillery strikes.
Artillery, SIF missions, CAS missions, close air support, helicopter missions, and artillery as well, and smaller of 80 millimeter, 81 millimeter mortars.
Right. And did you have to go to other schools like airborne and
Yes, well, I went to airborne school
at Fort Benning?
at Fort Benning. It was entertaining once they found out. A lot of times, it was 3 weeks long,
Yeah.
and then the instructors can kind of judge, like, all right, we got a bunch of jarheads in the class, and it was fun. So you couldn't do, and we would always kind of try to up the Army, which naturally,
At jump school.
yes. So if before chow, I can remember you had to do like 3 pull-ups. We
Yeah.
would do like 10 or 20 before we went in to eat, and the Army guys behind us are like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, we would run around the formation while they're all doing
while
their
you're doing
formation
your own.
runs. Yeah. So it kind of drove everybody crazy. But it was for our own sanity,
Yeah.
We had fun with it.
As an aside, I went through jump school in January of 1990, and there were a couple of Marines in my class.
Okay.
Yeah, great guys, and talk about like individuals. There was a morning where we couldn't find the jarheads, and they were hanging from the 34-foot tower, doing pull-ups and singing the Marine Corps hymn. It's just wild guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
All right, so you got a whole bunch of schools to become a recon Marine, and what's the first duty station? Where do you go when when you get through all the training, you're fully qualified?
So you get you get connected to a team. So the things have changed a little bit, quite a bit. Once you got your MOS, you went to your school for your MOS, which was ARS or RIP, Recon Indoctrination Platoon. Once you got your MOS, then you would get assigned to a platoon and a team inside that platoon. Then your teammates, likely, but not all the time, half of them would be kind of new, and then half would have a lot of experience. So the experience could rub off on the younger cadre, and then you would start trickling off to schools. That was back then. Now they kind of school you through the process. So when you get to your team, there's no more, oh, I got to go to SEER school for 3 weeks. Oh, I'm going to jump school for 3. I'm going to dive school, all separately. So then you became less effective as a unit. Now, with everybody getting trained up and then coming together in a team, then you're more able to deploy as a team.
Let me just jump back for a second. So you got jump school. You said SEER school.
Army SEER school at Fort
SEER
Bragg,
school.
Camp McCall.
Yeah, and that's was it search evasion?
Survival, evasion, resistance, escape. That was probably the greatest school I've ever gone to in my life.
Like real world.
Real world, and just the knowledge you get, and more about, and again, the suffering. So it was freezing cold during our evasion portion, and you get captured. There's no way you're getting around it. But you're living in the woods. I ended up losing like 25 pounds.
Of course.
I was 180, and then I lost 25 pounds. It was insane. So I starved for a week, eating like grass mostly.
Yeah.
Nuts and things you find.
Sleep and food deprivation.
Yes, it was unbelievable. And you had to live. You didn't have a tent, or you didn't have any. So you had to make a shelter out of like shrubbery and bushes, and then you had to stay well hidden from the enemy that's supposedly out there looking for you.
Op 4.
And which there was an Op 4 looking for you. But then at some point, okay, you get picked up by your liaison that's going to bring you to some other facility, which is all part of the program. And then during that transition, you get caught, you get pulled over by the Op 4, and that's when your incarceration begins.
Yeah.
And it's run by the DOD. They're actual interrogators.
Yeah.
And they slap you around. If you make a mistake, they let you know it. So you're trying to go through what you've learned and use some of the defenses and techniques that, like you brought up before about McCain and Stockdale.
Stockdale.
Like they created a lot of these techniques to communicate between walls with the AFLQV, the knocking. That's all
Right.
They designed that, and so that just learning that and then trying to go through it. So during an interview, you're expressing how well you're being cared for, and in the meantime, you're like trying to talk to people watching the video using AFLQV with your eye or your hand or a twitch.
So you're on one hand, you're playing the propaganda game,
Right.
and then also
You're spelling out torture or help or something similar.
underneath that, trying to communicate with your fellow captives.
And the instructors, the DOD instructors that are actually the interrogators, they want to see you do this, and some method or manner, like tapping your foot or like a head nod or like scratching,
trying to keep unit cohesion.
Right. Right.
In a god awful place.
Yes. And if you do come off as like, okay, you're making this obvious, they're just gonna get up and smash you. And then if you get wise with them, you're gonna get smashed again. I got put in a concrete box and it was freezing cold out, and you were just wearing pajamas. A concrete box. It felt like forever. And during that, while I was in the box and not having slept or ate for a majority of that time, I was being interviewed by Howard Stern.
No way.
Yeah.
Wait,
it was very entertaining.
Was he there?
No.
Oh.
It was my own mind.
Oh, geez,
to deal with what was happening, I was like going through an interview with Howard Stern.
Just to get out of your...
I think it just happened naturally. That was the first time I'm like, I had like a separation from reality.
And you went to a different place.
Yeah, it was great. And then all of a sudden, some of the guys that are in the Op 4, like they're the guards, the prison guards.
Yeah.
But they're also part of like 82nd Airborne or 100, whatever they're. So like they started handing out like treats and stuff, and because they just feel terrible for you going through this mess.
Really?
So like, you get some Skittles thrown into the door or something.
Yeah.
You're like,
oh my God.
yeah.
That is wild.
So that was probably the best school I'd ever been to. And
Serious school.
Yeah. And then you learn the most. You learn the most about yourself, about the people you're with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic.
Now, so at this point, so you look through all this training. Is there ever a moment that you feel like, all right, I am a polished warrior. I'm ready for whatever challenges are there to come?
I don't believe I ever felt like that. I don't know I don't remember, baby. I knew that we were very good at what we were doing.
Yeah.
I felt confident that if we were thrown something, we would be able to handle it. Just based on the people that I was with and the people that are around me. We were never really tested in that respect, but
Talk about the relationship with the guys you were with.
So I still have a relationship with just about all of them.
From RECON.
Yeah. We still go down. We have our RECON reunion every year. We just came back from Nashville. We did that in October. That was fun. We always have fun.
You're talking what, 25 years?
Yeah, 25 years ago. And we're still it's like you never left the guy. You're back at it again. And that almost the same relationship I've developed with them is the same relationship I have with my high school buddies. Like, you could be separate. Like Ernie and Sam, I go camping with them every year. Jack Munchnick.
You fall right back.
Yeah,
in.
and Matt Leach, Jamie McGannon. We fall right into that, and we go hiking and camping, and that's one night a year. We try to make that happen.
Yeah,
and it's bang, Mike McGovern.
Like you never left.
Yeah, so
that's amazing.
So wow. I think just the connection and the reliance on one another was what was probably most special about that.
To my limited knowledge, nobody wants to go to war.
No.
But you were ready, though.
Ready. And I think we wanted to, we wanted to test ourselves, but
prove yourself on the battlefield.
Yeah. And then it's just probably for the better, I'd imagine.
Right.
Totally unnecessary.
Foreign overseas training deployments, anything?
We were down in Panama, just futzing around down there. We were down there for like a month and a half. We were with SF Group out of not Howard. No, they were stationed down there in Panama.
Okay.
What's the name of the base? It's not there anymore. They closed it. But that was a lot of fun. Those guys know what they're doing. Then during that,
Special Forces Group.
Yes, all Special Forces guys. I don't know if they're 7th or 9th or 10th. Okay. I forget. So we went during the middle of that. I flew home to go to my sister's wedding, and you were in the jungle for 4 weeks, and then you fly home for 2 days, and you got to fly back to the jungle again. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. It was actually during that time that I met Colleen.
Really?
Yeah.
And you were just home for a couple of days.
So I met her. So let's just say this is November 94. I had met her at the end, just met her like August, September of 94. We hadn't developed a relationship at all.
And what was she doing at the time?
She was at that time going to college full time.
Okay.
And working, I think, also as a teacher at St. Joe's in Spring Valley.
No kidding.
Yeah.
She started an education.
Yes. Oh yeah, she was a teacher for years.
I did not know that at all. Wow.
Then she worked at Sacred Heart for years too.
Really?
Yep.
Teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And you were this hardcore, hard charging,
knucklehead,
life taking, heartbreaking.
It was quite a. So her and I connected, and then I was trying to get in contact with her because I wanted her to go to my sister's wedding with me.
Yeah.
But the communication was almost next to nil from being in the jungle then to popping up. So she didn't get the message. I was very disappointed, whatever. Then I finally got in touch with her while I went. So I went back. And then
to Lucian?
When I went back to the jungle. And then I said, hey, I'll be home around this time. Will you be around? She's like, yeah, I'll be around. And that's when we got together and kind of.
But it was a long distance thing for quite a while.
Yeah. So once we once we connected, we fell in love immediately.
Yeah.
There was like, this is it. Like almost instantaneously. And 3 months later in March, I deployed for a 6-month float into the Med.
Wow.
So she was home and I was on the Med, and everything was right. You couldn't make phone calls unless you hit land. Every once in a while, we would steal the satellite phone and make phone calls that way.
Yep.
But everything you had to wait till you went somewhere. Everything was letters, and we still have all the letters. Hundreds of letters. Yeah.
Andrew, I spent 6 months at Sotocano Air Base in Honduras, and I fell in love just before I deployed. I wrote 180 letters, a letter every day. Man.
That's it. Yeah.
I was quoting song lyrics.
Whatever it took.
Oh, I was
just kept going.
I was full on, brother. Yeah, I know exactly where you were. But tell me, like, writing the letters, what effect does that have on the relationship? When you're a million miles away.
Well, to back up, when I was in boot camp, I realized I'm actually an entertaining writer. Like about my experience, I can write it and make it fun and entertaining. My parents loved the letters just because, like, this is ridiculous. It's like almost surreal. And then, when I was deployed to the Med and writing Colleen, I would try to make the letters as entertaining as I could.
Yeah.
And it's hard to express or to paint a picture of what's going on around, because every day it just seems like the same thing over and over again. Yeah. You'd wake up, you'd eat chow, you'd go up the top, you'd do a million pull-ups, you'd run around circles, you'd go downstairs, you lift weights, you go to lunch, and you play video games, you beat each other up, and then you go shoot on the flight deck, and then you're done shooting, and then you go to bed. It was crazy. So. And
on that Med float, what spots did you hit?
We hit a lot. We hit.
I always am fascinated with the opportunity to travel and go see the world.
So this was a phenomenal trip. We went to Portugal, went a whole bunch of places in Spain, went to France, Went to North Africa,
Wow.
Morocco, um, and then went Italy, the Balkans, um, and then to Greece, so Sardinia. It was crazy.
What was your favorite spot?
The Greek Isles are probably just cruising around them. You're like, this place is amazing. Like, but again, you're confined to the ship for most part. You only have like 12 hours off. You got to get back to the ship.
Right.
So you had to take that into account. And then seeing the cruise liners pulling next to you and everybody's having a blast, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But
I'm a RECON Marine. I gotta go do this.
yeah, it's terrible. But being a RECON Marine, you were treated more like an adult, which was fantastic, especially in the fleet.
How old are you at this time?
51.
No, but
At the time,
back then,
22.
yeah.
So, but you're treated like you're not micromanaged. Like, this is the job. This is what we expect of you. Make sure it happens, and that's it. But in the fleet, like you're in the infantry units, it's like everything is like
Micromanaged.
Super micromanaged from the top to the bottom. So, and it was hard to watch that play out. We had our own like separate berthing area away from everybody else, and you had to get to chow. You had to walk through everybody else's berthing areas,
Right.
the infantry Marines, and you're like, oh, God, I feel so bad for these guys.
Yeah.
So
And-
they had very little privacy of their own.
And you at this point, like the word operator, that's kind of like how I define people that are on that super level where you are, like, SF, Delta, SEALs, the Air Force parajumpers.
Yeah.
You're on a different level, and that's where you are at 22.
Yeah.
You're out seeing the world.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Great experiences. And you said the pararescue guys. So I ended up becoming a paramedic as well when I got out.
While
As soon as I got out,
Okay.
I went back to college and then I went to paramedic school.
all right, back up, getting out. What tipped the scale? Was it the relationship with Colleen?
100% Colleen. Yeah, I didn't see myself prolonging this any longer. And I did the years that I wanted to do, and I completed what I wanted to get done, and there was nothing going on throughout the world. It was just like, all right, let's try something different.
And you got out.
And I got out.
And you went to college, you said.
So I got out and went right into college. I went back to RCC.
Okay.
Try to get my mind. And actually, while I was on float before getting out, because float ended in September, end of September, I got out in December. For like 3 of those 6 months, I was taking math classes with a captain who was an infantry officer. Me and like 5 other recon buddies were all taking math classes to get our brain back up into
Getting ready to transition.
Yeah. So, and he was great because everybody always thought this guy was, I forget his name. It was just like, he was Mr. By the book with all his guys, like just super strict and rigid. But like with us, he was very, he changes. I'm a teacher now. I'm not a CEO of a
Different relationship.
infantry platoon. So totally different relationship, definitely. So I got out, went to college. While in college, I felt like there was something missing. I felt like medically, I wanted to kind of go that route, see what, and I just didn't want to go I went to EMT school with Colleen down in the city, St. Vincent's nursing school. Her and I went to school there. And I wanted to keep going. I'm like, I'm going to become a paramedic.
Yeah.
So then I applied for that and I got into that. And that was another full year program going down to the city. But that's where you get the experience, like down the city. It's nuts. And St. Vinny's being downtown, you get to see your fair share of. Yeah. And we actually had guys from pararescue riding on ambulances just to go to trauma cases, stab wounds, gunshots, just to get their hands full of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it felt like, because I felt like I was missing a piece of, I don't want to say readiness, but that's kind of the only word I could think of. Like I was missing something, and I thought like that's the only piece that I want to get a hold of.
You were courting more deliberate discomfort.
Oh, was I?
Yeah, that's you talk about that missing piece.
Hmm.
Like I find, or I found at the time, my transition from the Army, from active duty to civilian life, it's very difficult. You know,
Yes.
I miss my buddies.
Yeah.
When you go to work every day with your best friends and you cut that line, boy, oh boy,
Yeah.
it can be a tough transition.
Yes.
And
that just rattled my head about something. When you're in the service and you're with these guys, you know what to expect. You know what these guys are going to give you everything they got.
Yeah.
As soon as you go into civilian life, you initially expect the same from the people that are around you. Yeah. And you're like, this is terrible. Society is awful.
What have I done?
Yes. So during paramedic school, I'm like, I got to I bring a backpack and I'd have just weights in it. I'd go up and down just upstairs all day long doing pull-ups on the gas pipes, and people are like, this guy's crazy.
This guy's a freak.
Yeah, total freak show. I used to go to RCC and put rocks in my bag and run up and down the stairs. Yeah, people thought I was nuts.
Oh, great.
Yeah, oh God. Oh, and then when I became a lifeguard, I'm dragging around bags of rocks through the water, swimming, finning, yes, running around the woods like a madman. So that's
you were out there, man.
Yeah, I was definitely out there.
Oh my God, this is so great.
So,
I'm like picturing it in my mind. Yeah,
it was a lot of entertaining.
You were not like the average. You were not the average Joe at all, man.
No, and that's when I really discovered never stop testing your boundaries. Constantly challenge yourself.
At what point did you start thinking police work?
So when I became a paramedic, while I was becoming a paramedic, I'm like, I could easily transition this into being a nurse or even maybe become a doctor or something. But I don't think I had I know I could have done it. At that point in my life, I could have done anything.
Yeah.
And even now I could probably still do it if I really wanted to go to medical school, but it's not even not even a thought in my head right now.
Yeah.
So, totally lost my train of thought there.
Thinking about going into the police work.
Oh, okay. So once I decided I didn't want to become a nurse, I'm like, I'm gonna ask Colleen to marry me. We're only 25 at the time.
Yeah.
I asked her to marry me during the state and national registry certifications.
Okay.
It was on Independence Day. I figured I'd make it a little
there you go
entertaining. Independence
July 4th.
July 4th. Man. So we just finished our 25th year married together.
Wow.
So it was at that time I'm like, I'm gonna have to change course here because I'm about to start a family. I'm gonna be responsible for somebody. Yeah. And she was a full-time teacher at the time. She graduated college. She was working full-time. I gotta get a job. So while I was finishing up paramedic school, I was asking guys, hey, does anybody know where I should take police tests? And I had taken the NYPD test, the FDNY, and state police, and I was all on their lists. And a guy in class, he's like, why don't you take the Greenwich test? I'm like, Greenwich? Greenwich where? He's like, Greenwich, Connecticut. I'm like, how far away is that? He's like, oh, it's just over the border. I'm like, oh, all right. So he brings a packet in. I fill it out. I give it to him. He sends it in. I go take a test, and I scored really well on it. And they called me up right away and said,
you started out in Greenwich?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So I was there for 8 years.
Really?
And then while I was there, I finished college. I went and got my bachelor's degree in history.
Where did you do your bachelor?
Empire State College.
And you did it in history?
Yeah. Which
awesome.
I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be doing it all online. Like there's a lot of writing, a lot of typing. So, but
a lot of self-discipline.
A lot of self-discipline.
Got to lock yourself into the computer.
Yeah. Which that wasn't the hard part. Maybe doing too much was the hard part.
Right.
I overdid it. But
let's flash back for a second. Favorite historical period?
It's got to be split between the Revolutionary War period and World War II.
There you go. I got to tell you, in my teaching practice, I would blast through topics that I didn't like, so I could leave 3 weeks for World War II.
Oh yeah,
I would just go full on.
Fascinating. It's just
full on, man.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Just to sacrifice, global sacrifice. It's unreal.
Yeah, and there are heroes from World War II. I was telling you off camera that I interviewed all these guys, all these World War II guys. There was one guy who couldn't make it that day to North Rockland, a guy named Nick Patrico from Congress. So I said, no problem. I'll take my camera and I'll sit with him. Got in the guy's kitchen, 84-year-old Italian American guy, and started to tell his story. And he was with the Rangers that scaled Point du Hoc.
Oh, wow.
I spent 3 hours with the guy, and I rolled the camera and hardly said a word.
Good
Just let him
Lord.
talk.
Good Lord.
And this is like, these guys are treasures.
Yeah.
Like right in our backyard. And I'm not blowing smoke, man. But when I thought of bringing in treasures that I want people in my followership to hear these stories. I thought of yours immediately. And I'll tell you, you have not disappointed. You know,
Thanks.
This is a story of devotion, selfless service, and like always wanting to push it a little bit further with the grand goal of just being ready.
Yes.
If your country needed you.
Yes.
And that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm getting from you.
Oh,
and
thanks.
I'm vibing on it. It's very, very, very cool. All right. So you're in the Greenwich PD and you're there for 8 years.
Yeah.
And now you're married.
I got married in 98, August 98. And we have 3 kids. We had all 3 kids pretty quick. While I was in Greenwich.
Yeah.
Excuse me. My oldest is Morgan.
Yeah.
She's 24. And then Catherine is 22. And Jack is 20.
And where's Jack going to school?
Jack he's trade school in BOCES.
Really?
So he's talking about becoming an electrician. He was also toying around the idea about joining the Marine Corps as well. Like, become an electrician.
Yeah. All right. Kind of out of time, but I wanted to ask you, Marine Corps, all branches of service are having a difficult time recruiting right now.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, your feelings?
Well, I could give you the DOD definition of that, but I tend to disagree with the majority of it.
Give me the guts, man.
I don't feel it's very unfortunate that everything's become so politicized that we really hamstrung our military and our readiness. We've focused on things that don't matter. Our military does one thing. They destroy things.
Fight wars.
That's it. Fight wars, destroy. Everything else is
social engineering.
100% social engineering. It is for no military on the face of the earth. And they're pushing it and pursuing it. And it might be intentional to dismay or create a level of hesitancy in a young man or young woman that wants to pursue this, but then sees how they're portraying the military.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. It's disturbing. I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. I don't understand why they would do it. It has nothing to do with readiness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of just emerged suddenly.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly frustrating to watch.
I always thought, you know what? This is the perfect meritocracy. Just let it be. Let it be. The cream will rise to the top.
Right.
It will always be that way.
Yeah.
My hut in Hondo was the perfect microcosm. We had an African-American lieutenant from the Deep South. There was a Puerto Rican lieutenant, obviously fluent in Spanish. And then you had me, a white Irish boy from Stony Point, New York.
Yeah.
And you know what? We were all first lieutenants. We all went to college, got through ROTC, went to jump school, did all the right things. And then we were in positions of leadership.
Yeah.
And it worked perfectly. It didn't need to be engineered.
Right. And I don't know what they're doing with it. And I don't know what, well, I have my assumptions, but it's very frustrating to watch unfold.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Since we're on frustration, I have to ask you, was there ever a time in the last 20 years, being what you are, consummate warrior, you have all the skills, and you're still in absolute killer shape, and we're going to get into your athletic endeavors in a few minutes, but you could step right back into that role. So after 2001, well, first of all, talk to me. What was your gut reaction to 9/11?
It was very real to me. I knew immediately what it was.
Right.
Uh, I wasn't playing with myself or my head. I knew that this country was going to war.
We're at war.
This is the worst, and it was the worst attack on our country, on our citizenship ever.
Yeah.
I mean, Pearl Harbor was totally separate. It was a military installation.
Yeah.
Civilians did die during that attack, but it was after a military installation. This was strictly civilians and civilian casualties.
Yeah.
And then the death toll after the building collapsed of the firefighters and some of the police.
Oh, yeah.
It was just, it was unbelievable. And to see the plume constant every day from Greenwich, you could see it you could see the buildings where they used to be, and the constant smoke and everything else going up. Had I not been a father and a husband, instantaneous.
You'd have gone back.
Instantaneous. And a lot of buddies that did get out, they didn't go back in, but they worked for Blackwater. They went over there as contractors, private contractors.
Yeah.
So, and they were thrown into a whirlwind of madness too, getting put into that. Some of their own doing, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's, you go somewhere else in the country and you have this conversation with somebody, they can't wrap their head. If you don't see it, it's hard to wrap your head around it.
Yeah.
You can read about it. You can study it. You can interview people about it. But if you didn't see it and experience it and feel it and smell it, and then get the feedback of the people that are dying and then the memorials and the funerals, it's
people you know.
People you know. People you grew up with, close family members. It just awful. That's when it really.
One of my high school soccer teammates from Alberta's, Ryan Devine.
Yeah.
Ryan Devine. And the Scholes, was it Tommy Scholes?
Tommy Scholes. Yeah.
I mean, just
a lot of guys.
It's a gut.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible.
I remember walking around Palisades Mall with my family. It had to be 2005. And by that point, I'd been doing triathlons. I was in pretty good shape. And I was 38, 39 years old. And there was a National Guard recruiter. I got talking to him. Now, to this day, I still feel survivor guilt. You know?
Yeah, because especially if you're so close to it.
Yeah.
And then you could have easily fallen back into that role because you were still in shape. Your mentality was still there. Like you could easily go right back in there.
You know what? I had two sons, and one of my oldest son is autism, special needs.
Yeah.
There was no way I could go.
Yeah.
You know?
I do have some regret, and I got phone calls from guys that were going in through these private contractors. They're like, "You're a paramedic, you're a cop, you're a SWAT team cop, you're a RECON Marine. Like you could make a lot of money going over there and doing nothing other than medical. Like that's it.
Your ticket. Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't leave.
Can't leave the family.
Yeah, I left Colleen for 6 months for undeployment, and then I left her again for 6 months to go to a police academy up in Connecticut.
Right.
That was a sleepaway, so I'm like, I just can't do it to her again.
Yeah.
It's not gonna fly.
Right.
So that was pretty much the end of that.
All right. So now let's get back into chronological order here. So when did you get to Clarkstown?
So I got to Clarkstown in 2006. I was at a sniper competition in, might have also been 2005, fall 2005, a sniper competition in New Hampshire.
All right, back up. When did you become a sniper?
So in Greenwich, I was a sniper and on our entry team for their SWAT team, and also team medic. So as one of the snipers, myself and two other guys from Greenwich went up to a sniper competition to compete. And I bumped into a bunch of guys from Clarkstown. And of course we crushed them. That goes without saying. And so during one of the conversations, one of the guys, Joe Canaric and Pete Monroe, who was also a RECON Marine, they're like, where do you live? I'm like, in New City. They're like, what? Why are you in Greenwich? I'm like, well, I mean, it's a great job. I thought it was a great job.
Yeah.
So then I start talking about Clarkstown, and I'm like, you got to be shitting me. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
And I live 0.7 miles away from the police station.
Right,
so it's
right.
like, this is a no-brainer. When's the test? They're like, you have 2 weeks to file. I'm like, oh my God. And Clarkstown was always in my head, but I just like, whatever. I'm in a great spot, great job.
Yeah.
I love it. The people over there are awesome. But then they started throwing some numerics at me, and I'm like, whoa, what? And then just avoiding the travel time is just,
becomes a no-brainer.
Oh, that's a no-brainer. So 2 weeks to file, came home, filed, took the test, wham. The only problem with transitioning, going from Connecticut to New York, is I had to go back to the police academy again. Of
course.
Which was, it was entertaining to say. I was a police officer for 8 years.
Probably just an absolute breeze.
It was a breeze, and I actually liked the people I was with. They're just great folks, and I ended up like teaching some of the classes. It was fun. I had a blast.
That's awesome.
But the transition was easy, and then starting in 2006 in Clarkstown was great. Within a couple of years, I was on their SWAT team.
Yeah.
And we do their entry team and explosive breaching. A buddy of mine, George Mendez, and I, we started the explosive breaching. That was maybe 10 years ago. So we started that, and now I'm, kind of just dwindling away from a lot of that, just trying to narrow myself into a.
So you had a number of years on the Clarkstown job where you were still high speed, doing SWAT stuff.
Yeah, I'm still on the team. Still doing it.
Still doing it.
Yeah.
At the age of 51.
Yeah.
But that's, you said, starting to transition to thinking about the last couple of years.
I'm more of one of the team leaders. There's 2 team leaders, and we kind of facilitate the training for the other guys for the most part.
That's where you're at now.
Yeah.
Training SWAT guys?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so now you're married, you got your kids. The kids are in their 20s, and they're doing their own thing.
They're doing their own thing.
And you're looking at the last couple of years, on the Clarkstown job, and what's next?
Eventually, for the job, probably going to the police range and becoming a permanent instructor there.
Yeah. That's a nice gig.
Yeah, just
9 to 5.
9 to 5 kind of thing. Maybe 7 to 3, even better. Wake up early, get out of there early, and it's right up my alley. So
yeah,
it'd be a perfect, seamless transition, I'd imagine.
Now let's talk about athletics. Let's talk about your running, your triathlons. How does it all, like, I don't know where to start. Maybe first New York City Marathon, or just take us there.
So I never really liked running, even when I was in the Marines.
Yeah,
I could do it, but I just never really found joy doing it.
Yeah,
mostly because everybody was yelling at you to run this far, run faster, go whatever. So I didn't find joy in that. But it turned out that it was, I guess, almost therapeutic.
Yeah.
Bringing yourself to a certain level and be like, whoa, this is so hard right now that you could quit, but that's not an option anymore.
Your father's
right.
words.
Yeah. You can't go that route. So I guess you got to finish, or you got to keep pushing yourself as far as you can until your body gives out or your mind gives out. So I did my first marathon in 99 or 2000, maybe 2000.
Which one? Marine Corps?
My first road run was the New York City Marathon. That was my first race.
First race.
And then my first triathlon was the Ironman up in Lake Placid in 2000.
So you didn't go sprint, Olympic, and
I just went right for it. And when I got done with the marathon, I'm like, oh my God, I got to ride a bike 112 miles.
Which Ironman did you
Lake Placid.
Lake Placid. And that's swim, bike, run?
That's swim, bike, and run. So you swim 2.4 miles in Mirror Lake, 2 loops, and then you bike 112 miles up there, very hilly, a lot of elevation, and then you run a marathon, 26.2 miles. So when I got that done, I felt really good. And back then, I didn't know anything. Like I just, my bike was average. You know, I wore a T-shirt. You know, I didn't know anything. Just go for it and just see what happens. And I did really well. And I'm like, this is actually enjoyable. Super tough, but really enjoyable. And then I got into ultra marathons. So in 2007 or 2008, I wanted to run 100 miles, and I wanted to raise money for the Wounded Warrior Project. So I ended up raising like $50,000 for the Wounded Warrior. Maybe it was somewhere around 50,000, maybe a little less. And I had to run a 50 to qualify for the 100, and I did the Vermont 100. But I had made a pledge that I wanted to get the belt buckle, and if you could run it under 24 hours, you get a belt buckle. If you run it over but under 30 hours, you get a plaque. So like, I got to get the belt buckle.
You want the belt buckle?
So I ended up, I finished it in 23 hours and 56 minutes.
Oh my God.
So the last 5 miles was probably the fastest 5 miles I've ever run in my life. Yeah. Slamming into a tree, almost knocked myself out. Pitch black.
Take me to mile 60. Your mind, your body, where are you at?
So it being your first, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to happen. And it wasn't, I had run the 50 to qualify for the 100. Right. So when I got done with the 50, I'm like, I'm smoked. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to double down on this. So by mile 60 in the 100, during the 100 miler, about that time I was running with my cousin, Timmy Malley, and he was pacing me.
Yeah.
And he just, he just kept moving. As long as you keep moving, you feel terrible, but as long as you're eating right, and
along the race route,
during some of the aid stations, as long as you're filling the void with the proper fluids.
And are you talking to your pacer?
Yeah, we're talking. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm probably mumbling or whatever I'm saying. He's trying to make me laugh. He doesn't know what to say. He's like, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Because you are going through the big suck.
Yes, but that was the last time I did. The first and last time I did a 100 miler with pacers, like designated pacers. Yeah. So it's not the 60 mile mark. It's more like the 85 mile mark. That's where that's
when it gets real.
That's when it gets, it's most troubling at that point, I think. But again, that's your first one. Because once you fight through it, you fight through the pain and the agony and your feet are destroyed. All of a sudden, like a light bulb goes on a week later. You're like, that felt great. Like that was awesome. You look at your feet and you're like, your feet would argue with you. But it just feels great to get, and it's very spiritual, I think. Right? Once you get to a certain point where your mind is in control of everything, and as long as you're saying nice and thinking about positive things for your mind gets endless. The possibilities are fruitless. Through my experience.
Yeah.
And then going on and doing another couple more 50 milers after that, and doing a bunch more hundreds and a bunch more Ironman. That's the main reason why I do it, is for that spirituality, that connection you get with something that's not really present. It's almost out of body. It's spiritual. You're connected to something greater than yourself.
The place that you're finding that is out there on the road or on a trail.
On the trail. It's got to be on the trail. The roads will kill me.
Yeah, roads will kill me.
Brutal.
Wait, you're on a trail.
On a trail in the middle of nowhere. John Muir said it best. Into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul. Yes. It's 100%. I read that once. I'm like, that's it.
At a very limited scale, my favorite spot to run, Andrew, was always Kennedy.
Beautiful,
I could go up to those roads, to the trails, and just lose myself.
It's peaceful.
It might be a 3 miler or it might be 10.
Yeah.
Just lose yourself back there.
Yes.
And you come out you see a field and you see a clearing and there's 5-6 point bucks just standing there, and talk about spiritual. It just blows your mind.
Yeah.
And it hits you in your mind, your heart, your soul.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome, man.
yeah. So then I threw this. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to step it up. I'm going to do the Moab 240. So it's a 240-mile single loop around.
Yeah.
And the national forest, the national parks of Moab, Utah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't know what to expect. All my expectations, I left them in a bag, and I'm like,
how do you train for that?
So this is where I changed everything. I did a lot of heart rate training, like zone 2 training.
Yeah.
Where you keep your heart rate at a certain level and you maintain. And as soon as it goes up above that, you start walking.
Okay.
So, but then your heart and your circulatory system adjusts to providing your body with what it needs, the oxygenation it needs at that low heart rate level. So you can go longer. Your heart is under less stress. Your circulatory system's under less stress. Your mind's under less stress. So
you're really you're tapping into techniques that have been like, you know, kind of weeded through
yes
for years.
Yeah.
Like pro athletes stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And
that's amazing.
And it's I found it to be so advantageous to take this on. Initially, it's like I can't. As soon as I start running, my heart rate goes to 150. I'm like, this is terrible. So I'd start walking, and I jog, and I walk, jog. I got to the point where I could go like, depending on the terrain, because obviously you go up a hill, your heart rate's going to go up.
Yeah.
I could jog almost all day long without going above a certain heart rate. And I'm like, this is just fantastic, you know? Yeah. But then the time was a problem. Like I didn't want to, I wanted to break the running up. So I would do like a longer run in the morning and then a longer run at night. I wouldn't spend
doubles.
Do doubles. And that's
every
like
day?
during the peak of your training session. And I probably did that for maybe like 4 weeks where I'd have to do that. And I really limited my running to, once you don't have to run that far anymore. Cause I just wanted to finish it.
Right.
Like I wasn't even going to try to win the thing.
Right.
Dead on the side of the trail.
240 miles.
So, but unfortunately, so that Moab 240 was the greatest adventure of my life.
Really?
It was unbelievable. The things that your mind does for you during madness is unbelievable. It protects you. And I probably couldn't have gotten there without the experiences that I had. So I was able to protect life. Yes. And then also leveling up, increasing my mileage with other races and stuff like that. And those experiences. So unfortunately, I only got to 209 miles. I got lost a bunch of times. I kicked a poisonous cactus that went into my foot. That caused me problems.
Oh my!
So I only got a 209 miles out of it. And then I timed out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I got lost for probably like 9 miles.
Yeah.
All told. So that kind of screwed me up. So we'll see what happens. See what the future brings.
You might want to knock that off. Oh my God.
Colin might kill me.
Wow. And yeah, how do you balance family life and work life? You're still on the Clarkstown PD. You got 3 kids. You're married. You got this whole life, and you're just trying to squeeze it in when you can.
Yeah, a lot less sleep.
Yeah,
that's the only time you can really take away is probably your sleep time. You do something on the weekend, when the kids were in school.
Yeah,
like all right, kids are in school, and I'm off today, so this is it.
Yeah,
this is my hard day.
Oh my God, unbelievable.
Yeah, it was that thing that happened in October. The Moab was a lot of fun. It was an adventure beyond adventures.
Now, listening to you, I have a follow-up question. I look at the younger generation right now and what COVID did to them, and just the years of helicopter parenting and cultural changes and society values shifting. I see a big need for a major course correct in our country. And listening to your message, which is really unbelievable, I thank you so much for sharing it with Keenan's Korner, man. This has just been like a mind-blowing hour. What would you say to young people?
Anytime I talk to somebody, the younger generation, I try to instill a level of an ability that they maybe they haven't seen yet. I was a drill instructor at the police academy for 10 years, and all these young kids come in.
Really?
Yeah. So, and that was like my main function, is to let them see that they're able to do greater things. So what, for instance, I'd say, hey, all right, let's go. Let's go for a really short run.
Yeah.
And we'd go for a 3-mile run or a 4-mile run. That's a very short run, but to them, it's catastrophically long.
Yeah.
They have never run that far. So I'm like, who here hasn't, maybe not in this nice tone of voice, but who here has never run 4 miles before today? And half the class would raise their hand. I'm like, well, that's a goal. You just achieved a massive milestone. And before the class is over, they're running 13 miles. In a lot of cases, we would take, obviously, the class into, we'd have to regulate based on their experiences or maybe some injuries. We would tone that down a bit. But they were able to get things done that they had never imagined were possible in their lives. So what I would say to the younger generation is, and I say this to my son because he went through COVID during high school. He lost his wrestling years, lost his lacrosse years.
Huge. That's huge.
Yeah, that's so devastating. And it's very difficult to see them go through that challenge. Like for them to process that at such a young age, it looked like I felt like I was helpless because they looked like they were helpless.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to say or say the right thing. But honestly, you pick a goal, there's nothing that can stop you from achieving that goal. You have to set your mind to something. And if you follow through, and I don't mind eating an elephant. Yeah. You just got to take small bites. And it might take you a year, it might take you 10 years, but you keep pushing along and eventually it's going to be nothing but bones. And kids are very resilient, capable people.
They just don't know it.
They just don't know it. And I think being a good role model and seeing people out there, or even watching your favorite athlete, or watching your favorite runner, or somebody that has achieved monumental things, and seeing like, well, how did they do it? And then learn from them, learn from their mistakes. Yep. But you're going to make your own along the way, and just be prepared for that.
I'll tell you, the thing that got me into triathlon was a video of Team Hoyt, Dick and Rick Hoyt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The father.
Father and son.
An Air Force colonel.
Yeah.
Who had the son who was cerebral palsy.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
And he took him on a 5K run, and they turned into Ironman.
Yeah.
Triathlon.
Unbelievable. Like that's.
I watched the love of that father. I showed it to my class, and I grew up as a lifeguard, and the guy who taught in the room right next to me, Brian Diglio, one of my best friends, he and another teacher, we started swimming every morning at 6 a.m. at the North Roblin pool, and we did the West Point try, and we did the New York try, and we were training for a half iron when I got injured 10 years ago. That was next, a half iron. So in my mind, bucket list, I was hoping for the Lake Placid.
Yeah.
At some point, and then got ahead of the plans.
Here
I am. But you know what though? It's been a 10-year journey, and I get grace-filled moments like the one we're having right now. And it to me, the message that you just sent out to young people, to me, that's like God is telling me, all right, Bill, you're exactly where I want you, doing exactly what I want you to do. Because that message that you sent out, I hope it just, if it touches one young person, 18 to 20-year-old, who's got a question mark over their head. Yeah. And maybe we can turn that into a freaking exclamation point.
I agree. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get more than one person, brother.
Oh, what? We'll see.
All right. So, all right, listen, folks, to put a bow on it, Andrew Kelly, a man for all reasons and all seasons. He's a warrior, a Force RECON Marine, a Clarkstown police officer, and getting ready to transition into a beautiful retirement with his lovely wife somewhere down south. I'll observe operational security. I won't divulge the location.
Thank you.
But Andrew, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, man. And we'll see you next time on Keenan's Corner.